Selling a car is more than a transaction. It's an art form. It begins with understanding your customer, their needs, dreams, and concerns. Engage genuinely, listen actively, and build trust. Your enthusiasm and authenticity will set the tone. Every car has a story. It's your job to tell it compellingly. Highlight the features, but focus on how the car enhances the customer's life. Point vivid pictures of possibility and experiences. Finally, remember that the relationship doesn't end when the customer drives away. Follow up and show appreciation. This turns a one-time sale into a lasting relationship. In the art of automotive sales, it's all about creating connections and delivering value. Hi, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Car Boss. I'm your host, Taj, and today we're diving into the art of automotive sales. Welcome back, Commander.
Thank you, Taj. Good morning and namaskar.
Commander, our first question for you today is sales process starts with inquiries. Lack of sales inquiries is often quoted as the reason for poor sales. Is this reasoning valid? And what are your views?
Yeah, right. I first to a direct comment on what you mentioned. There is no ambiguity. There is no doubt on the fact that inquiries are essential to start the sales process. But the point that I would like to make is that if there is a fall in sales inquiries, it doesn't mean that it really affects the actual sales in a big way. No, normally this whole view is more myopic, more short-sighted. Because what actually happens in dealerships is the moment you see sales inquiries in terms of footfalls to the showroom, what we call walk-in inquiries, starts to diminish or slow down for whatever reason, everyone starts to think that sales have come down. No, I disagree with this because I think this is not the right interpretation of this, temporary shortfall or temporary, diminishing of footfalls to the showroom. What we need to look at is the overall picture. The overall picture of how inquiries are generated, what kind of inquiries are there, and how they, influence or, impact the sales. To me, any dealership which is professionally run with a very strong leadership on top will ensure that any minor glitches or any kind of fluctuations in the inquiries do not impact the final sales outcome. That I'm very confident. So let's get into and understand what are the different kind of inquiries that we are today talking about. The first and foremost is what we call the walk-in inquiries, prospects who come into the show. Now, I remember 20 years ago, 25 years ago, I think about 90% of inquiries were in the form of walk-ins. People actually came to the showroom, wanted to see the car for themselves, and then decide on their purchase. But over the years, this has diminished. This has really, really come down, especially in bigger cities like Bangalore, and I'm sure about other metros too, where people find it very tiresome to commute to the show. So with the result that you are seeing a drop, and actually today, in terms of walk-ins, I think there would be about 30% or 40% of the total inquiries. That's how the walk-in inquiries are coming. The second type of inquiries is what we call tele-inquiries, where people call up the showroom, call up many brands, get to know about the cars, ask people to bring over the car for test drives at home or in their offices. Now, this used to be very, very less once upon a time. Now it has gone up because of the fact that people don't want to come to the showroom. So this also now have risen up to say 30 to 40% of the total inquiries, the tele-inquiries. The third is a new age phenomenon, which is basically digital inquiries, where people go into trade platforms or go into OEM websites or dealer websites or just surfing the net. They come across cars, they want to find out more about it, more out of curiosity, etc. Now these inquiries are really short. Very huge number of digital inquiries generated. But the quality of these inquiries are suspect because most of them are casual inquiries, more of informative, more to pass the time, etc. So there is a need to filter these inquiries because if you are going to give these inquiries to sales consultants to tackle, you're going to waste the time. So showrooms or dealerships must have a backup team, like the customer care team, where they call up these inquiries, understand if these are very serious inquiries, people who want to take a test drive or want to come over, etc. They must filter this and bring it down and bring down to a level which is managed. And you will find that these actual filtered tele inquiry or what we call digital inquiries are about 5 to 10%.
Right.
So you see 30%, 30 to 40% walk-in inquiries, the similar number of tele inquiries, and about 5 to 10% maximum of digital inquiries. The fourth type of inquiries, which is one which is neglected, it's almost forgotten, is the referral inquiries. Very sadly, very unfortunate, that most of the dealerships don't pay heed to this because it doesn't even exist in their in the scheme of things, that referral inquiries. I would think that is a big number that people are missing out. Because if you see the referral inquiries in dealership, if you really trying to uh, segmentize them, you will not find more than 2 or 3%, because there is no tracking, there is no collection of these inquiries, and and the way they are approached is completely absent. So with the result, the referral inquiries are really down. But actually, if you look at it in terms of conversion or the possibilities of conversion of these inquiries, what we see today is that in the case of walk-in inquiries or tele inquiries or digital inquiries after filtering, their conversion rate is about 15 to 20% max. It could even be lower. But I don't think there are many dealerships where these conversion rates go above 20%. They're all limited to 20% maximum. But if you look at the referral inquiries and anyone tracks those inquiries, you will see the conversion of referral inquiries are more than 60%, because these are inquiries which are actually being seen by a customer. Basically, it's an existing customer who gives you the referral inquiry. He would have done a lot of selling himself and convince the prospect that this is a good car to buy. So half your job is done, or more than half your job is done. So you really find referral inquiries conversion is very. But unfortunately, you will find that these inquiries are not really given the kind of attention and importance in dealership. With the result, we're losing a huge potential, huge opportunity that is exists in terms of selling. So you will find that the moment walk-in inquiries reduce, people start to make noise, or sales are going to come down, or sales are come down because inquiries are less. This is a misnomer. We need to correct it by managing our inquiries well and making sure that we get inquiries from all these four sources: tele, walk-in, digital, and more importantly, on the referral inquiries. Now, if this can be done in a professional dealership where you have processes, you have good leadership, you will find that any kind of fluctuations or lowering of sales inquiries will not impact the sales. You will find the sales will continue to be there or even move up, even with physical numbers of inquiries coming. So this is something that we must be very clear, and we must look at this more professionally.
So do you think dealerships focus on generation of referral inquiries? And what are your suggestions for optimizing this opportunity?
Right. I think I have always been a proponent of referral inquiries. To me, I think dealerships can actually survive with whatever comes in as walk-in or teles or all that. But if you are focused on referral inquiries, I think the dealerships can do very well. Because like I mentioned earlier, a referral inquiry conversion is upwards of 60%, which means that for every four inquiries that you get in terms of walk-ins or tele or digital, you just need one referral inquiries to match. That's a kind of a comparison. So all we need to do is to generate referral inquiries. Now, for this, dealerships must have first and foremost a very well trained, a professionally managed sales team. And we talked about this in our early episodes, the kind of people that we must take into the sales force, the kind of training that we must do, and the kind of leadership that we must have. This is very important, because referral inquiries don't just happen like that. Referral inquiries have to be created. So the most important thing for referral inquiries is the sales consultant must build a relationship with the buyer at the time of the sales process. This is that bond that creates is a very strong thing. And what I've seen typically is that in the case of a new car buyer, the first 2 years of ownership is a time that he is able to give you a lot of reference. Because anyone who goes out there with a new car will always get eyeballs. You will find his friends, his relatives, etc., who will want to ask him about the car, how the car is, how the dealership is, etc. And and you will find that a good customer or a customer who is very inclined towards the dealership and to the sales consultant will himself will encourage someone to buy this car. So I think creating the relationship with the customers at the time of his purchase is critical for getting referral inquiries. For this, you need a well-trained sales team and a good leadership in the sales department. This is the first part. The second part, and very important, is that the organization or the dealership must have a very robust process to keep in touch with customers. It's not good enough that, yes, you sold the car, you had a good bond, etc., but you need to be maintain a certain kind of communication with the customers. I remember that we started a process where every person who bought a car from us, we created a profile card with a photograph. Now, that photograph is very important because when you make those calls to the customer, you also know him by looking at the picture and says, look, I recall this. Very important.
True.
That kind of personal connect is very important when you make these calls. So you make the calls during the first 1 year or the second year where you're talking about the car. Does he have any problems? Has he faced any issues when he went for service of the car, etc.? Now, this connection when you make, I'm not saying call up the customer every other month, 3 months and 4 months, and I'm talking about the first 1 year or 2 years of his ownership. If you do that very religiously and very, very, sincerely, I can assure you that you will get referral inquiries. Very, very sure. So we talked about first to build the relationship at the time of sales. We talked about this process. The third very important thing which many dealerships don't do is how to make sure that this is, if it is not by relationship, it has to be a compulsion. So very important is that any sales consultant who has been there for a long time, say when I say long time in a dealership, at least about 2 or 3 years, he must be encouraged to get more referral inquiries. Now,
Right.
saying encouraged may not happen by itself. So the best way to do this is to ensure that the senior guys do not have access to other kind of inquiries, which means walk-ins, tele, or digital inquiries. You sort of reduce their access to these inquiries and tell them, look, you need to talk to your customers and get referral inquiries. And I can tell you one thing. If sales consultants are encouraged and motivated to do this and they understand or they experience the results of this, many senior guys will say, look, I don't need other inquiries. I will stick to my customers. I will get my referral inquiries. Why I'm saying this is, I recall one of our sales consultants in one of our showrooms. He never wanted to touch any walk-in customers or tele inquiries or digital inquiries.
Right.
He said, leave me alone. I will have my customers who will give me leads. And
Right.
he did only on that. And I can tell you, he did very, very well. He was one of the toppers all the time, every year. He had no pains because his selling was done by his customers. All he had to do was to make sure that when the prospect comes in, he takes good care of him and
Yeah.
ensure the car is delivered. So I think, we have to somewhere enforce this, restriction on existing sales consultants. Say, look, you have to get your own referral inquiries. You are not going to get access to other inquiries which are meant for the junior consultants who do not have existing customers. So if you follow these three processes of building relationship at the time of deliveries, making sure that you remain in touch with the customers using a process, and ensuring that you do very frequent periodic calls as per the mandate. Third is to ensuring that the senior guys do not get access to other inquiries. They have to generate their own referral inquiries. Now, if these are done, I would think that your referral inquiries will go upwards of 10% of your total inquiries. And
Wow.
imagine these 10% of inquiries are going to get you conversion more than 60%.
That's
And I
very
know at
good.
some cases, yeah, it is 70, 80, 90% conversion because the person who is coming as a reference has already been sold the car by your existing customer.
Right.
So you will get a lot of conversion. Now, not to forget, there is one more aspect of this referral inquiries, which is what you get out of the service centers. Now, please remember, that after the first or the second year of ownership, normally I do see customers, tilting towards a service advisor because that is where they go, that is whom they keep in touch with. And also what happens is consultants, pay more attention to the newer customers than to the older ones.
Right.
Now the service advisors must be encouraged to get referral inquiries. And I can tell you one thing. I know of many service advisors who every month on month, used to give at least 3 to 4 referral inquiries. And remember, these are actual sales, fine.
Sales, yes.
These are not even, and these are inquiries of customers, existing customers who want to upgrade, or they want their friends or relatives who are looking to buy a car. They tell the service advisor, look, my friend is looking for a car. Can you get this done?
Yes.
So, service advisors can be a huge potent weapon, in making sure that you get a lot of referral inquiries. So, with the consultants playing the major role, with the support from the service advisors, the number of referral inquiries will definitely shoot up, and that is going to be a big bonanza for dealerships. Unfortunately, you can count the number of dealerships in a city like Bangalore where they have a dedicated, robust working process to get referral inquiries. I can challenge people because I have seen many dealerships. They don't have this at all. People don't even talk about referral inquiries. It is not even given an importance. But you see the potential that we are missing.
Yes.
So I think if you talk about sales coming down, it is simply because we are not managing our inquiries well. When I say managing inquiries means generating inquiries the right way. We are always depending on people walking in or people making calls. But why are we not looking at our existing customers?
True.
So I think this is going to be the game changer. If dealerships can move their focus towards referral inquiries, I would think they would be much, much better off. And there'll be no stress of saying sales are coming down because the inquiries are coming. Now, it's also very important that we need to look at how these inquiries are given to sales consultant for the next part of the sales process, which we will discuss in one of our coming episodes, what I would call the distribution of inquiries. That's a very important thing. That also affects the overall sales, how it comes up. So I think to sum up, it's all about managing your inquiries the right way. And the most important focus should be towards referral inquiries, which can be a real game changer in the overall scheme of things.
So there you go, everybody. That's how it needs to be looked at. Subscribe, like, share, and keep watching. We have a lot of interesting things on the way. Thank you, Commander.
Thank you. Namaskar.